I am continuing the lesson series, and we're talking about foundations. We've talked about holding the guitar and kind of creating good form there, and I've talked about your fret hand and what maybe should be going on there. Next in the progression would obviously be talking about your picking hand. I say picking because I play with a pick. You don't have to. Let's talk about if you decide not to. People love to play with their bare hands. Some people like to grow a nail, a thumbnail, and kind of use that as their pick. I've never opted to do that, so I can't speak too much to the benefits of that. I would imagine really the only downfall would be if you break a nail. But the one thing that I absolutely recommend against is playing with the pad of your thumb. Some people love to do it because when you play with the pad of your thumb, it's hard to get volume, so it's hard to hear. So if you're not necessarily looking to be so exacting in what you're playing, the thumb is a great refuge. But if you want to have some volume, you're going to either have to use that nail or a pick. Some folks like a thumb pick. Again, I've never really used a thumb pick effectively, but I know people who have. These picks come in multiple thicknesses, ranging from thin to a thick pick. I'm not even sure what this one is medium. I think most people play with a medium pick. It does have some pliability. A thin pick is even greater. I know sometimes people, if they play with nylon strings, like a really thin pick, or sometimes people who play harder, like a thicker pick. I'm not all that fussy. Medium is my favorite, but if I have to, adapt to one of the other picks, it's not going to be the end of the world. But some folks like a textured pick. Keeps it from sliding out the hand. Some folks create their own texture, sometimes with a little piece of sandpaper on there. So again, this is going to be one of those things. It's a personal preference of exactly what you want to do in terms of striking the strings, right? Whether it's a nail or a thumb pick or a medium pick, or that's purely personal preference. As far as what to do with the picking hand itself, that's going to be pretty standard practice. So you're going to want the guitar kind of tucked in, right? You're not really looking for this or looking for this out here. You really want the guitar tucked in. You want your hand to be over the sound hole. Why? It's obvious. That's where you're going to get the most sound. If you do decide to go with a pick, how you hold it, again, this is going to be personal preference. The most common is the two fingers, but that's not the only way. Some people like this way. I believe I hold it like this. Yeah, that's how I hold it. But again, there's no right or wrong on that. That's purely personal preference. Again, though, the position of your hands, right, is what is not personal preference. That is the part that it needs to be here, right? Now I'm muting the strings with my other hand just for demonstration purposes. I mean, you can hear it, right? But there's your motion. That's initially what you're going to want to get down, right? And I talked about in the other lesson series, the other foundations, where you're moving your fingers. Well, what are you going to be doing with this hand? Straight down plucking, right? When you're hitting more than one string, strum. When you're hitting one string, pluck. Kind of makes sense, right? Downstrokes initially, right? Down, not out. People love to do this. And it's okay, but eventually you're going to want this motion, right? Because eventually at some point you will want to play more than one string at a time. So you're going to want nice, beautiful downstrokes. I find in the beginning people do a lot of this, right? Looking from one to the other, because what has to happen? This hand has to learn what string this hand is on, right? So there's a lot of this sort of horizontal back and forth in the beginning. And then what happens? You eventually learn, this hand gets an idea, and your ear will start picking up. If you're moving your fingers on this side, but you're not hearing the string change, you're not hearing the note change, your ear is going to start to learn, oh, I have to correct, right? Your ear is going to start to self-correct that. Some habits that I tend to encourage against in terms of your picking or strumming hand, the bridge. Some people love the bridge. And, I know folks who've maybe have been playing for a long time, and they've kind of developed this bridge to help hold their hand up, which is okay, except when you're now talking about the case of strumming, right? Plucking, if you have a bridge there, it's probably not the worst thing in the world. But when you're looking now to start strumming, this bridge is going to get in your way. I encourage people not to. But what is the bridge there for? They're looking to create strength, right? Well, my encouragement would be to develop the strength in your elementary practice. That way, you don't need that bridge. So, in the beginning, when you're doing the initial learning on the fret hand, it's just as much for the picking hand as well. To gain strength, to gain location, and to ultimately gain skill. I think that's it for right now. What comes next? I'm not sure. I think someone's here. I think maybe we'll talk a little bit next step about tuning. So stay safe, and we'll talk soon.